Commander HFY stood before the massive holographic display in the bridge of the Galactic Council's flagship, the Eternal Wisdom. The three-dimensional star map showed the outer rim territories in brilliant detail, but there was something fundamentally wrong with what she was seeing. Where the Draconian Empire's mighty armada should have been positioned, there was nothing but empty space. "Run the scan again," she ordered her tactical officer, a nervous Altarian whose tentacles twitched with anxiety. "Commander, we've run it 17 times. The results are always the same. The entire Draconian battle fleet has vanished without a trace." HFY's scaled hands clenched into fists. The Draconian Empire commanded the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. Their armada consisted of over 2,000 warships, including 50 dreadnoughts that could each destroy entire star systems. Such a force didn't simply disappear. "What was their last known position?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The Sol system, Commander. They were preparing for the final assault on the human homeworld." The bridge fell silent. Everyone present knew the significance of that statement. 3 months ago, the Draconian Empire had declared war on humanity, claiming that the young species posed a threat to galactic stability. It was almost laughable at the time. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years prior and controlled merely a dozen star systems. Their technology was primitive compared to the great galactic civilizations, their military consisting of crude kinetic weapons and basic energy shields. The Draconians saw humanity as an infestation to be eliminated before it could spread further. Emperor Thaxamor had been particularly vocal about the need to crush these vermin before they multiply beyond containment. The galactic community had largely ignored the conflict, viewing it as a minor extermination operation that would be concluded within days. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted the silence, "we're receiving a transmission from the human government." "Put it through," HFY commanded, her curiosity overriding her diplomatic protocols. The hologram flickered, and the image of a middle-aged human male appeared. He wore a simple black suit and had an unremarkable appearance, the kind of being that most galactic species would overlook entirely. His eyes, however, held a depth that made HFY uncomfortable. "Greetings, Commander HFY. I am Secretary General Martinez of the United Earth Government. I understand you're looking for the Draconian fleet." "Secretary General Martinez," HFY replied, maintaining her diplomatic composure despite the irregularity of the situation. "The Galactic Council is indeed concerned about the whereabouts of Emperor Thaxamor and his forces. Our sensors indicate they were last detected in your system." Martinez nodded slowly. "Yes, they were here. All of them. It was quite the impressive sight, actually. 2,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, blocking out the stars around our little planet. The Emperor was kind enough to broadcast his intentions to our entire population before beginning his attack." "And where are they now?" HFY asked, though something in the human's tone made her scales ripple with unease. "That's a complicated question, Commander. Would you and your team like to visit Earth? I think it would be easier to show you rather than explain over a transmission." HFY hesitated. Protocol dictated that she should refuse such an invitation, particularly from a species currently involved in an active conflict. However, the disappearance of an entire armada superseded normal procedures. "Very well. We'll arrive within the standard day." As the transmission ended, HFY stared at the empty space on the star map where the Draconian fleet should have been. Something fundamental had shifted in the galaxy, and she had the growing suspicion that humanity was at the center of it. The journey to the Sol system took 18 hours at maximum warp. During the trip, HFY reviewed everything the Galactic Council knew about humanity. They were a young species, having achieved spaceflight only recently by galactic standards. Their technology was crude but showed rapid advancement. Most importantly, they had never demonstrated any capability that could threaten a force as powerful as the Draconian Armada. As the Eternal Wisdom dropped out of warp at the edge of the Sol system, the first thing HFY noticed was the debris field. Scattered throughout the outer system were fragments of metal and composite materials, too small and dispersed for her sensors to identify immediately. "Commander," her science officer reported, "I'm detecting trace elements of draconian hull alloys in this debris. The distribution pattern is extensive." "How extensive?" "It appears to encompass the entire star system, Commander. Whatever happened here, the debris field extends from the outer planets all the way to the inner worlds." A chill ran down HFY's spine. She had seen the aftermath of many battles, but she had never encountered debris scattered across such a vast area. It suggested destruction on an unimaginable scale. "Sir, we're being hailed by Earth Traffic Control," the communications officer announced. "On screen." Another human appeared, this one younger and wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. "Welcome to the Sol system, Commander HFY. This is Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Command. The Secretary General is waiting for you on Earth. We're transmitting safe passage coordinates that will guide you through our defensive perimeter." "Defensive perimeter?" HFY asked. Her sensors weren't detecting any significant military presence. Admiral Chen smiled, and there was something unsettling about the expression. "You'll understand once you arrive, Commander. Please follow the designated route exactly. For your own safety." As they proceeded toward Earth, HFY became increasingly disturbed by what her sensors were telling her. The debris field wasn't random. There was a pattern to it, as if the destruction had been methodical rather than chaotic. More troubling still, some of the larger fragments showed signs of having been subjected to temperatures that should have been impossible to achieve with human technology. "Commander," her tactical officer whispered, "I'm reading some very unusual energy signatures from the third planet. They don't match any known technology in our databases." "What kind of signatures?" "They appear to be quantum fluctuation patterns, but the intensity is far beyond anything I've ever seen. It's as if space itself has been altered somehow." Earth grew larger on their view screen, a blue-white marble that looked deceptively peaceful. As they approached, HFY could see that human civilization had spread across the planet's surface, with cities glowing like scattered jewels in the darkness. It looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, the homeworld of a young, developing species. But the energy readings were getting stronger. "Commander, I'm detecting massive underground installations across the planet's surface. The power outputs are—" The science officer paused, recalibrating his instruments. "This can't be right. What is it?" "According to these readings, the humans are generating more energy than some star-class civilizations. The installations appear to be connected by a global network, and they're all drawing power from— I don't understand this. The power source appears to be dimensional in nature." HFY felt her world tilting. Dimensional manipulation was theoretical even for the most advanced galactic civilizations. The technology required to harness power from other dimensions was considered impossible by most scientists. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, guided by the human traffic control system, HFY could see that the planet's surface was not what she had expected. The cities were larger and more sophisticated than their intelligence reports had indicated. More disturbing still, she could see massive structures that hadn't been there in any of their previous surveillance data. Towering spires that seemed to bend space around them, installation complexes that extended far underground, and strange geometric patterns carved into the landscape itself. "How long has it been since our last detailed scan of this system?" she asked. 3 months, Commander, right before the Draconian fleet arrived." 3 months? HFY stared at the transformed world below them. "They've accomplished all of this in 3 months?" The landing pad where they touched down was a marvel of engineering that shouldn't have existed. The materials alone represented technologies that were decades beyond what humans should have possessed. Secretary General Martinez was waiting for them, flanked by a small group of humans in both civilian and military attire. As HFY descended from her ship, she noticed that the air itself felt different. There was an energy to it, a subtle vibration that made her scales tingle. The humans looked exactly as they always had, unremarkable bipeds with soft skin and primitive features. But there was something in their bearing that hadn't been there before, a confidence that seemed entirely at odds with their primitive appearance. "Welcome to Earth, Commander," Martinez said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I trust your journey was enlightening." "Secretary General," HFY replied, shaking the offered hand while trying to ignore the strange energy she could feel radiating from the human. "I must say, your world has changed considerably since our last survey." "Yes, we've been quite busy. The draconian visit was very educational. It taught us a great deal about ourselves." "About the draconians, Secretary General. Where are they?" Martinez smiled, and for a moment his eyes seemed to hold depths that stretched into infinity. "As I said, Commander, it's easier to show you than to explain. But first, I think you should understand something important about humanity. We've always been an adaptive species. When faced with threats, we don't just survive. We evolve." A young human woman stepped forward from Martinez's group. She appeared to be in her 20s. With unremarkable brown hair and ordinary human features. "Commander HFY, I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Evolutionary Sciences. Before we show you what happened to the Draconian fleet, I think you should understand what they helped us become." "What do you mean?" HFY asked, though part of her was beginning to suspect she didn't want to know the answer. Dr. Chen gestured to the transformed cityscape around them. "When the Draconians arrived, they brought with them the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Their ships were powered by zero-point energy. Their weapons could tear holes in space-time itself, and their defensive systems were based on principles that we barely understood." "And yet they're gone," HFY observed. "Yes," Dr. Chen agreed, "but their technology remains. And we are very good at learning from our enemies." Dr. Chen led Commander HFY and her team through a series of underground corridors that descended deep beneath Earth's surface. The walls were lined with a material that HFY's tricorder couldn't identify, and the air hummed with barely contained energy. Every few hundred meters, they passed through checkpoint stations manned by humans whose eyes held the same unsettling depth that Martinez possessed. "How deep does this facility extend?" HFY asked as they entered another transport capsule that carried them even further underground. "Approximately 12 kilometers," Dr. Chen replied casually, "though depth becomes somewhat relative when you're dealing with folded space. The actual volume of this complex is considerably larger than the planet's crust could normally accommodate." HFY exchanged glances with her science officer, Lieutenant Kexvan, whose mandibles clicked nervously. Space-folding technology was theoretically possible, but implementing it on this scale would require energy outputs that most civilizations couldn't achieve. "Dr. Chen," Lieutenant Kexvan spoke up, "my readings indicate that this facility is drawing power from sources I cannot identify. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." "That's because you've never encountered dimensional cascade reactors before," Dr. Chen explained. "They were a theoretical concept until 3 months ago. The Draconians helped us understand that theory wasn't quite as limiting as we thought." The transport capsule finally stopped at a massive chamber that stretched beyond the range of their vision. The ceiling was lost in shadows above, and the floor extended for what appeared to be several kilometers in every direction. Throughout the space, strange machines hummed with activity, tended by humans who moved with mechanical precision. "What is this place?" Zexhai asked. "This is where we learned," Dr. Chen said. "When the Draconian fleet arrived, they didn't simply attack. Emperor Thaxamor wanted to make an example of us. He broadcast his intentions across every communication channel on Earth, ensuring that our entire population could watch as he demonstrated the futility of resistance. Dr. Chen led them to an observation platform that overlooked the central area of the chamber. There, suspended in some kind of energy field, was the forward section of a draconian dreadnought. The massive ship component was easily 300 meters long, its dark hull scarred and partially melted. "The Emperor's flagship," Dr. Chen continued, "the pride of Draconius. 2 kilometers of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. He used it to destroy our orbital defense platforms as a demonstration before beginning the planetary bombardment." "How did you acquire this section of the ship?" Zexhai asked, studying the suspended wreckage. Her tactical training told her that Draconian dreadnoughts were virtually indestructible. "We didn't acquire it, Commander. We inherited it." Dr. Chen pressed a control, and the chamber filled with the sound of recorded transmissions. Emperor Thaxamor's voice echoed through the space, speaking in the guttural draconian language with its characteristic arrogance. "Humans of Earth," the translation matrix rendered his words, "you have been judged unworthy of existence. Your species spreads too quickly, thinks too cleverly, and adapts too readily. You are a cancer in the galactic body that must be excised before you contaminate other worlds with your dangerous ideas." The recording continued as the Emperor described in detail how his fleet would glass the planet's surface, ensuring that no trace of human civilization would remain. He spoke of the Draconian Empire's manifest destiny to rule the galaxy and eliminate any species that might challenge their supremacy. "He was quite thorough," Dr. Chen observed. "The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. Our cities burned, our defensive installations were reduced to slag, and our population centers became craters. According to our estimates, approximately 4 billion humans died in the initial attack." Zexhai felt her scales pale. 4 billion deaths made this one of the largest genocidal acts in galactic history. "Dr. Chen, I'm sorry for your loss, but that doesn't explain what happened to the Draconian fleet." "Doesn't it?" Dr. Chen asked. "Commander, what do you know about human neurology?" The question seemed to come from nowhere. "Very little." "Why?" "Human brains are quantum processors. We didn't know this until recently, but every human mind operates partially in 11-dimensional space. Most of the time, this ability is dormant, unused, but extreme stress, particularly the kind caused by watching your entire species face extinction, can trigger activation." Dr. Chen gestured to another section of the chamber, where dozens of humans sat motionless in elaborate chair-like devices, their eyes closed and their bodies perfectly still. 4 billion minds died that day, Commander, but not before they activated. Not before they reached out into the dimensions we never knew we could access and touched the quantum foundations of reality itself. Lieutenant Kexvin's instrument readings spiked dramatically. "Commander, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations from those individuals. The energy output is..." "Impossible?" Dr. Chen suggested. "Yes, we thought so too. Until we realized that what we considered impossible was simply a limitation of 3-dimensional thinking." She led them closer to the seated humans. Zexhai could see that their faces were serene, almost peaceful, but their presence felt overwhelmingly powerful. The air around them seemed to shimmer and bend. "These are survivors from the targeted cities," Dr. Chen explained. "When their families, their friends, their entire communities were vaporized before their eyes, something in their minds broke. But instead of destroying them, it freed them. They reached out through dimensions we can barely comprehend and touched the fundamental forces that hold reality together. What exactly are you saying? Zexhai demanded, though part of her was beginning to understand. I'm saying that when the Draconians killed 4 billion humans, they accidentally created 4 billion quantum gods, Commander. And those gods were very, very angry. Dr. Chen activated another display showing a three-dimensional representation of the Sol system from 3 months ago. The Draconian fleet was shown in perfect formation, surrounding Earth like a metal constellation. The survivors reached out through folded space and time. They touched each Draconian ship simultaneously, regardless of distance or shielding, and they began to change things at the molecular level. The display showed what happened next. One by one, the massive Draconian warships began to unravel. Their hulls didn't explode or melt. Instead, they seemed to dissolve from within, as if the very atoms that composed them were being convinced to become something else. The Draconians tried to retreat, of course, Dr. Chen continued. But you can't run from beings who exist in 11 dimensions. Distance becomes meaningless when your enemies can reach through space itself. The debris field, Zexhai whispered. What remains of the most powerful military force in the galaxy? Yes. 2,000 warships reduced to their component atoms and scattered across the star system. The process took approximately 4 minutes. Zexhai stared at the display in horror. That's impossible. The energy required to disintegrate matter on that scale would be impossible using three-dimensional physics, Dr. Chen agreed. But when you have access to the quantum foam that underlies reality, matter becomes quite malleable. The survivors didn't destroy the Draconian fleet, Commander. They convinced it to stop existing as organized matter. Where is Emperor Thaxmore? Zexhai asked. Dr. Chen smiled, and the expression was genuinely warm, despite the horrific context. Oh, he's quite safe. The survivors were very careful about that. They wanted him to witness what he had created. She led them to another section of the chamber, where a single chair sat in isolation. In it was a figure that Zexhai recognized from intelligence briefings, Emperor Thaxmore himself, the absolute ruler of the Draconian Empire. He sat perfectly still, his massive reptilian form motionless, his eyes open but unseeing. He's alive, Dr. Chen explained, physically unchanged, but the survivors wanted him to understand the consequences of his actions, so they opened his mind to 11-dimensional space. He's currently experiencing every moment of the bombardment simultaneously from the perspective of every human who died. He feels their fear, their pain, their love for the families they were about to lose. For how long? Zexhai asked. Forever, unless the survivors choose to release him. They've made it clear that he will experience the death of 4 billion innocents until he truly comprehends the value of the lives he destroyed. So far, they estimate it will take approximately 10,000 years for a draconian mind to process that much emotional reality. Zexhai felt sick. The implications were staggering. Dr. Chen, what you're describing, it's not just about the Draconian fleet. If humans can manipulate matter at the quantum level, we can do anything we choose to do. Yes, Dr. Chen confirmed. Reality is quite flexible when you understand how it actually works. The survivors have been teaching the rest of us, sharing their newfound abilities. We've made considerable progress in the past 3 months. She gestured to the chamber around them. This facility was built in 6 days. The dimensional cascade reactors were constructed from mathematical principles we derive from 11-dimensional physics. The space-folding technology came from understanding that distance is largely a matter of perspective. And the debris field throughout your system? Raw materials, Dr. Chen said simply. We're recycling the Draconian fleet into more useful forms. Their hull alloys are being converted into building materials for our new cities. Their weapons systems are being studied and improved upon. Their computer cores are being repurposed to help us process 11-dimensional calculations. Lieutenant Kexvin's voice was barely a whisper. Commander, the implications of this technology. If humanity can manipulate reality itself. We're not interested in conquest if that's what concerns you, Dr. Chen said. We never were. Humans prefer to explore, to learn, to grow. But we've learned an important lesson from the Draconian Empire. Sometimes predators mistake peaceful intentions for weakness. She led them to a final observation deck that looked out over the chamber. From this vantage point, Zexhai could see that the space extended much further than she had initially realized. Thousands of humans worked throughout the complex, their movements coordinated with inhuman precision. The galaxy is about to change, Commander, Dr. Chen said. For 200,000 years, the strong have preyed upon the weak. Advanced civilizations have grown powerful by conquering and enslaving younger species. The Draconians were simply the latest example of this pattern. And you intend to stop it? We intend to evolve beyond it. The survivors are sharing their abilities with any human who wishes to learn. Within a year, every member of our species will have access to 11-dimensional consciousness. We will spread throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as gardeners. Gardeners? Zexhai asked. We will tend to the young civilizations, protect them from predators, help them grow. We will ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between submission and extinction. The age of galactic empires built on violence and oppression is ending. Commander, we are the end of it. As Dr. Chen spoke, Zexhai noticed that her own instrument readings were becoming increasingly erratic. The quantum fluctuations in the chamber were intensifying, and she could feel something pressing against the edges of her consciousness. Dr. Chen, she said urgently, I think we should return to our ship. Of course, Dr. Chen agreed. But the air in the chamber suddenly changed, becoming thick with an energy that made Commander Zexhai's scales stand on end. The seated humans throughout the complex opened their eyes in perfect synchronization, and their gaze fell upon her with the weight of stars. When they spoke, their voices echoed from 11 dimensions simultaneously, creating harmonics that resonated in frequencies her species had never heard. Commander Zexhai of the Galactic Council, they said in unison, their words somehow appearing directly in her mind, rather than traveling through air. You have seen what became of those who chose genocide over coexistence. You will carry our message to the galaxy. Zexhai tried to speak, but found that her voice had abandoned her. The presence of these enhanced humans was overwhelming, like standing in the gravity well of a neutron star. Her instruments had stopped functioning entirely, their displays showing only static as reality bent around the activated minds. Tell the Council, the chorus of voices continued, that humanity remembers every species that has been driven to extinction by galactic predators. We remember the peaceful Altoth, who were enslaved by the Kretar hegemony 3,000 years ago. We remember the scholarly Vixani, whose libraries were burned by the Draconian Empire itself. We remember the artistic Melkorans, whose beautiful songs were silenced by the Zephyrian war machine. As they spoke, images flooded Zexhai's mind. She saw civilizations she had never heard of, species that had been wiped from galactic history by aggressive empires. She witnessed massacres that had been covered up, enslavements that had been justified as bringing order to chaos, and genocides that had been celebrated as victories for civilization. The strong have always devoured the weak, the voices said. This pattern has repeated itself countless times across galactic history. But patterns can be broken, Commander. We are the pattern breakers. Dr. Chen stepped closer to Zexhai, her own eyes now glowing with the same 11-dimensional awareness. The survivors shared their knowledge with me first, she explained, her voice carrying undertones that seemed to originate from beyond normal space. I was a xenobiologist before the bombardment. I studied alien life forms, trying to understand how different species could coexist peacefully. Now I understand that the question was wrong. How do you mean? HFY managed to ask, surprised that her voice was working again. I was asking how different species could coexist, Dr. Chen said. But the real question is, how do we ensure that predatory species never gain enough power to threaten others? The answer is simple. We evolve beyond them. The chamber around them began to change. The walls, floor, and ceiling became transparent, revealing the true extent of the underground complex. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, filled with millions of humans working in perfect coordination. Some were manipulating matter at the molecular level, transforming raw elements into complex devices with nothing but focused thought. Others were opening doorways through space itself, creating instant connections to distant parts of the galaxy. In the 3 months since the draconian bombardment, Dr. Chen continued, we have established observation posts in every major star system. We are watching, learning, cataloging. We know which civilizations are predatory and which are peaceful. We know which empires are planning conquests and which species are facing extinction. What do you intend to do with this information? HFY asked. Though she was beginning to understand the horrifying scope of humanity's transformation. We intend to garden, Dr. Chen replied. The Vorthan Empire is currently planning to invade the Keeper colonies to steal their agricultural technology. The Kretar hegemony has identified 6 primitive civilizations for enslavement. The Zephyrian war machine is preparing to eliminate the Peaceful Gardens Confederation because their philosophy threatens militaristic ideologies. As she spoke, displays materialized in the air around them, showing detailed intelligence about galactic civilizations that the Council had no idea humanity was even aware of. Battle plans, resource allocation schedules, and invasion timelines were laid out with terrifying precision. All of these predatory actions will fail, Dr. Chen stated matter-of-factly. The war fleets will simply stop existing when they try to attack peaceful species. The weapons will cease to function. The ships will forget how to maintain their structural integrity. You're talking about interfering with the sovereignty of galactic civilizations, HFY protested. The Council will never accept such intervention. The chorus of voices from the enhanced humans filled the air again, and this time HFY could feel their amusement rippling through 11 dimensions. Commander, they said, what makes you think the Council has a choice in this matter? The displays around them changed, now showing the current locations of every major Galactic Council fleet. Ships that should have been scattered across hundreds of star systems were all shown in the same impossible location, everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. We are already present in every Council vessel, the voices explained. Your crews don't know it yet, but we have been observing their activities for the past month. Every weapon in every fleet, every computer core in every ship, every power system in every station, all of it exists now, partially in 11-dimensional space, under our direct influence. HFY felt the blood drain from her scaled face. That's impossible. Our ships have quantum isolation fields, dimensional barriers. 3-dimensional barriers cannot exclude 11-dimensional entities, Dr. Chen said gently. Your security measures are admirably sophisticated for 3-dimensional threats, but we exist in a broader reality. To us, your ships are like houses with no walls. The displays changed again, showing real-time views from inside Council vessels. HFY could see her own crew aboard the Eternal Wisdom, completely unaware that enhanced humans were moving through their ship like ghosts, examining every system and recording every conversation. We could have disabled or destroyed every Council fleet within minutes of beginning our observations, the voices continued. But we are not interested in destruction, unless it serves to protect the innocent. The Council serves a useful function in galactic governance. We intend to preserve that function while ensuring it cannot be used to enable further predation. What exactly are you proposing? Zexhai asked. The Council will continue to exist, Dr. Chen explained, but its mandate will change. Instead of maintaining the balance of power between galactic empires, it will focus on protecting developing civilizations from predatory ones. Wars of conquest will become impossible because the weapons used in such wars will simply cease to function. And if civilizations refuse to accept this new paradigm? The enhanced humans' voices became cold, carrying undertones that spoke of the absolute certainty that came from existing across multiple dimensions. Then they will follow the path of the Draconian Empire, they said. We have identified 47 major civilizations that have built their power through systematic genocide and enslavement. Each of them will be given one opportunity to abandon their predatory ways and evolve toward peaceful coexistence. And if they refuse, then they will be recycled into more useful forms, just as the Draconian fleet was recycled. Their aggressive instincts will be removed. Their military capabilities will be repurposed, and their populations will be taught the value of cooperation over conquest. The implications hit Zexhai like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't just talking about ending galactic warfare. They were talking about fundamentally altering the nature of advanced civilizations themselves. "You're planning to change entire species?" she whispered. "We're planning to heal them," Dr. Chen corrected. "Aggression is a disease that spreads through galactic society. Predatory instincts become embedded in cultures and are passed down through generations, creating endless cycles of violence. We can cure that disease by removing its causes at the genetic, cultural, and psychological levels." That's horrifying, is it?" the enhanced voices asked. Is it more horrifying than the systematic extinction of peaceful species? Is it more horrifying than the enslavement of billions of innocent beings? Is it more horrifying than the endless cycles of war that have plagued the galaxy for hundreds of thousands of years? Zexhai tried to find arguments against what she was hearing, but the logic was terrifyingly sound. The galaxy had indeed been locked in patterns of violence and predation for millennia. The strong had always preyed upon the weak, justifying their actions with elaborate philosophies about survival of the fittest and natural selection. "The age of empires is ending, Commander," Dr. Chen said. "The age of cooperation is beginning. Species will still compete, but they will compete to create rather than to destroy. They will strive to explore, to learn, to grow, rather than to conquer and dominate. And humanity will be the gardeners of this new age. Humanity will be the guardians," the voices corrected. "We will watch from 11-dimensional space, invisible and undetected, ensuring that predatory instincts never again gain enough power to threaten peaceful species. We will be the immune system of galactic civilization." The displays around them shifted one final time, showing a vision of the galaxy as it could become. Peaceful civilizations flourished under the protection of invisible guardians. Young species were nurtured and guided rather than conquered or enslaved. Resources were shared rather than hoarded. Knowledge flowed freely between worlds that no longer feared destruction. "This is our gift to the galaxy," the enhanced humans said. "Purchased with the blood of 4 billion innocent humans and paid for with the transformation of our entire species. We have become something beyond your current understanding, Commander, but we have not forgotten what we once were. We remember being weak, being vulnerable, being afraid of stronger predators. The Galactic Council will need time to adapt to these changes," Zexhai said, trying to maintain some semblance of diplomatic normalcy in the face of this revelation. "The Council has already begun adapting," Dr. Chen replied with a smile. "Your own ship's computer cores have been quietly upgraded with 11-dimensional processing capabilities. Your weapon systems now include safeguards that prevent their use against peaceful targets. Your navigation systems have been enhanced to help you locate civilizations in need of protection rather than resources to exploit. You've already changed us, Zexhai realized with growing horror. We've already improved you, the voices corrected, just as we have improved every major galactic civilization. The changes are subtle, designed to enhance your better instincts while diminishing your worst ones. You will find yourselves naturally more inclined toward cooperation and less interested in domination. And if we resist these changes? The chamber fell silent for a long moment. When the enhanced humans spoke again, their voices carried the weight of absolute certainty. Resistance would require predatory instincts, Commander, and predatory instincts are precisely what we have cured. You will find resistance unthinkable. As the full scope of humanity's transformation became clear, Zexhai realized that she was witnessing the end of one era of galactic history and the beginning of another. The age of empires, built on violence and conquest, was over. Humanity had evolved beyond the need for such crude methods of organization. They had become something new, a species that existed partially outside normal reality, capable of manipulating the fundamental forces that held the universe together. They were gardeners who could reshape matter with a thought, guardians who could prevent violence by making weapons forget how to function, and healers who could cure the disease of aggression that had plagued galactic civilization for millions of years. The terrifying truth was that the Draconian Armada hadn't been destroyed by human technology or superior firepower. It had been undone by the awakening of a species that existed beyond the normal constraints of three-dimensional reality. And now that species had appointed itself the shepherd of the galaxy, ensuring that no other civilization would ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. "Return to your ship, Commander," Dr. Chen said gently. "Carry our message to the Council. Tell them that the age of predation is over and the age of cooperation has begun. Tell them that humanity remembers every species that has fallen to galactic predators, and that we will ensure no others follow them into extinction." As Zexhai walked back toward her ship through corridors that now seemed to pulse with 11-dimensional awareness, she carried with her the most terrifying message in galactic history. Humanity had transcended the limitations of three-dimensional existence, and they would use their newfound power to force the galaxy to evolve beyond its violent past. The Draconian Armada had been the last great predator fleet. Everything that came after would be different, whether the galaxy wanted it to be or not. Before you leave, the survivors wanted you to deliver a message to the Galactic Council.